Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I have something to read before we actually call our meeting to order. Welcome to the August 4th Special Town Council meeting. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast live to our YouTube channel and through the Zoom platform. Links for both can be found on tonight's agenda, available on the town's website. You'll note that we have instituted physical distancing for those in attendance tonight. In order to maintain that distance, please do not move your chairs. Tonight's meeting will follow this format. Public comment for matters not on the agenda. Please do not comment on the Costco project during this portion. We will then begin the agenda item for the Costco project. Staff will first provide a presentation. The council will ask questions of staff. I will then open the public hearing. The project applicant will first be provided an opportunity to speak. They are attending in person and via Zoom tonight. The project co-applicant will then be provided an opportunity to speak. The council will ask questions of the project applicant and any additional questions for staff. Public comment will be opened. Public comment will be opened for each agenda item for in-person comments and through the Zoom platform only. Please note that YouTube live stream comments are disabled for the live stream. You can participate in the meeting via Zoom software or via telephone. When you join the meeting, you will be muted by default. To inform the clerk that you would like to make a public comment, you will use the raise hand feature. You can find the button to raise your hand at the bottom of the screen if you are using the Zoom meeting software. Please note, you should only raise your hand during public comment on the agenda item you are concerned about. You can also participate in the meeting by telephone through Zoom, which offers an audio-only functionality. In order to do that, dial 669-900-9128. When asked for the meeting ID, enter 891-4201-1180 and press the pound key. When asked for your participation ID, simply press the pound key to continue. You will be muted by default. If you are listening via phone, in order to inform the clerk that you would like to make a public comment during each agenda item, dial *9 to raise your hand. The clerk will unmute you when it is your turn to speak and will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Please note that you should only raise your hand during public comment on the agenda item you are concerned about. Be prepared to comment on the specific agenda item you wish to comment when I announce that item. You will have 3 minutes to comment per agenda item. Public comment will be open for each open agenda item through the following means. First, by those in attendance inside the facility. Please stand on the blue X marks in the center of the floor in order to maintain physical distancing. Please do not touch the microphone when you are speaking. Once you are done speaking, please head directly back to your seat. Once all of those inside the facility are done speaking, we will call those who are waiting outside. Those speakers will need to form a queue following the blue X marks on the floor. Once a commenter is finished speaking, we ask that they follow the tape marks and head back outside in order to maintain the capacity of the facility. When all members of the public in attendance have commented, we will open comments up to those commenting on the Zoom platform. Once public comment is finished, we will bring it back to the council for deliberation. With that said, I would like to officially call this meeting to order. And now let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Morales.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan. Here.
Councilmember Ondurko.
Here.
Mayor Clark-Kretz.
Here. All right, now we're going to open up for public comment for items not on the agenda.
Hello, my name is Pam Blake. I've lived here for 35 years, and I just want to make a comment on your July 14th Town Council meeting where all 5 of you voted yes to the building engineering and maintenance request to proceed with filing an application for the new proposed project that's on approximately 160 acres for the Green Business Park Loomis that includes 3 stories of condominiums. We watched the presentation that was given. Public comment was against this. I can't find this on the web page, but I did find it March of 2019. Welcome to Loomis, California. The town of Loomis is a quaint, family-oriented community established in 1850 and incorporated in 1984. Loomis retains its rural character and charm with its large residential lots and custom homes, an old-fashioned downtown and woodlands with natural streams and rolling hillsides. Now, people move to Loomis to be out in the country with nice homes on acreage, and I look at it as, yes, you guys all voted yes, you gave this company, the green light to go ahead with their application, but again, in that area, it's not right. I'm sorry. It's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda? Are there any public comments coming from our online options? All right, hearing and seeing no more further public comment, we'll move to adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Morales.
Yes.
Councilmember Ondurko.
Aye.
Mayor Clark-Kretz.
Yes. All right. Before we move on to the public hearing, I want to read the following. We will now open for public comment. We will first take public comment from those in the building. Please remember to stand on the blue X marks on the floor to maintain proper physical distancing. Once those inside have commented, we will call in those who are waiting outside. When those in-person commenters are finished, we will open public comment via the Zoom platform. If you are participating via Zoom software, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you are participating via phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. We will identify you by either your name or the last 3 numbers of your phone number. Please note that you have 3 minutes for your comment. Once you reach 3 minutes, we will ask you to please wrap your comments up. If you do not wrap your comments up in a few seconds, we will need to mute your microphone. All right, so with that said, let's open up our public hearing. This is regarding the Loomis Costco project, and I believe we are going to hear from staff first.
My name is Anders Hauge, and I am the consultant to the town on the processing of the Loomis Costco project. So we're going to briefly go through the presentation, and then you can have questions. Mary Beth or Sean, this doesn't seem to be working, so the green light does, but if you would push the next slide. So the purpose of tonight's hearing is for you to conduct the public hearing which you've opened. The town council is going to receive the planning commission recommendations for the Costco project, and you're going to receive a presentation by Costco on the project. You're going to receive public comment, and then the council will deliberate and make decisions after that process is complete. Next slide. The Costco requested action include the certification of the environmental documentation. It is to amend the Loomis zoning code. It's to approve a lot line adjustment and to approve a conditional use permit design review for a warehouse retail use with an accessory fueling station subject to the conditions of approval that are in your staff package. Next. The zoning amendments include a number. There is one that will amend section 1326.040 to allow warehouse retail uses in the general commercial zone. You have in the zoning code a warehouse retail use. It was just not assigned to a zone. You have it in your general plan, so this assigns that warehouse use to the zone. Also, 1330 allows the parking lot fixtures to exceed 20 feet for warehouse uses, but no higher than the building. Section 1336.90 allows 9-foot wide compact parking stalls. So this is the first time Loomis will have a compact stall in your zoning code. Section 1336.100 defines the warehouse retail driveway requirements. Section 1336.110 defines the warehouse retail loading space requirements for the loading trucks. And Section 1380.20 defines and clarifies warehouse retail definition and the definition of a fueling station. The Costco project is located at the southeast corner of Sierra College Boulevard and Brace Road. It's approximately 17.2 acres. There's a lot line adjustment that would dedicate the existing Starlight Lane, which is owned by Costco, to the owner of the Sierra Meadows Apartments, Robert Augustuk. There is a 155,000 square foot warehouse retail facility and a fueling station with up to 30 fueling pumps located on the site. This is a graphic of the lot line adjustment. Here, I do have the green pointer works. For those in the audience, you can see this hashed area where it says transfer parcel is the existing Starlight Lane, and that would be transferred from Costco to the AUG6. Next. Highlights of the plan. The retail warehouse is located at the north end of the site. The accessory fueling station is located at the southwest corner of the site. Initially, there will be 24 pump or fueling stations, but it has the ability to build up to 30. The site includes 781 automobile parking spaces, plus there's additional bike spaces, motorcycle spaces on site. There are going to be 63 oak trees placed on the site. 225 valley oak and 6 blue oak trees will be planted off-site pursuant to the town's tree ordinance, and they'll either be planted off-site or pay in lieu fees to have that done. And access to the Sierra Meadows Apartments is unchanged under the proposal before you tonight. This is a drawing of the project. Quickly, this is the Costco site at the northwest site. There is parking here for the staff of the Costco facility at the northwest corner. There is parking along the eastern edge. This is a required emergency vehicle access only. That is a condition of approval and is permanent. There will be a sound barrier along the residential uses at this side of the site. This is a fueling station in this location, and this graphic shows the traffic patterns for the fueling trucks to unload their fuel. This shows a pattern for the trucks loading Costco during the evening hours, and this pathway is where the loading trucks will come during the daylight hours, which is 7 to 10 p.m. Next slide. This slide is the same site plan, but what we wanted to show is this is Sierra College Boulevard. Along the bottom of the graphic, you have Granite Drive, the existing Granite Drive here, and that access to Granite Drive could be, in fact, provided through the adjacent property owner. Costco has negotiated with the adjacent property owner to allow that access. The city of Rockland, though, would have to approve it. So the conditions of approval that we have before you tonight requires, if the city of Rockland allows that access, the Costco shall build that access point to provide traffic and between the two commercial facilities, so they're not coming out on Sierra College Boulevard. Next slide. A couple of questions about the fueling station and queuing. Costco recently modified the plan slightly to increase the queuing. So these gray spaces you see down at kind of the bottom are the 30 fueling stations, and these are areas that you can queue people. So there are 30 fueling stations and 40 cars in queue for a total of 70 cars under normal conditions. If there is a situation where that is backing up, there is a temporary queue management plan, which is a condition of approval to be implemented, that this area of the parking lot will be barricaded. And it's hard to see, but there is a blue dotted line, and the cars will come around and then queue into the normal queue. And that adds an additional 13 cars for a total of 83 vehicles, both in the fueling station and also in queue. And honestly, if I saw that many cars, I don't know if I would want to drive in there. This is a graphic of Sierra College Boulevard at the Costco main entrance. Next slide. And this is a graphic from Sierra College Boulevard looking at the fueling station. Next slide. Some of the circulation highlights. The main signalized entrance to the project will be from Sierra College Boulevard. There will also be an access on Brace Road, which is a right in, right out on the west side of the Sierra Meadows Apartments. There is also a mandatory permanent emergency vehicle access point at the eastern side of the apartments, accessing or potentially accessing Brace Road. Sierra College improvements that will be constructed by Costco as part of the project are a northbound right turn lane, southbound left turn lane, northbound third travel lane on Sierra College Boulevard, sidewalks, class 2 bike lane, and a new dedicated right turn lane onto Brace Road. Next slide. Sierra College Boulevard improvements that are included in the Town of Loomis Capital Improvement Program include new northbound and southbound third lanes from Brace Road to Taylor Road, making that a 6-lane segment up to Taylor Road. There are new Class 2 bike lanes that will be from Brace Road to Taylor Road, and there will be a new extended northbound secondary lane from Taylor Road across the tracks along Sierra College Boulevard to provide additional space for queuing once you cross over the railroad tracks. The project also recommends mitigation of signalization coordination, which is required to be between Caltrans, the Town of Loomis, and the City of Rockland. Next slide. At this time, Mario Trembili, the town's engineer, is going to talk about some traffic items. There were a number of assumptions made during this process, both in the first, second environmental documents, in the final EIR. So we decided we wanted to give you some background information about traffic. So he is on the Zoom call. So Mario, tell me when you need to, or tell Mary Beth when you need to change the slides.
Thanks, Anders. This is Mario Tambolini with Wood Rogers, and we are the consultant that has been assisting the Town of Loomis with reviewing traffic items for the Loomis Costco project. And as Anders said, I'm going to spend just a couple minutes going over a couple of the common traffic comments that we've received throughout the process. I'm going to be providing just a little bit more information and some responses to those common comments. So the first thing we'd like to address is that we've been hearing that Costco in general generates a lot of traffic, and perhaps Costco's generate more traffic than most other land use types that could go into this type of area. So we wanted to take a little bit of a closer look at that. If you look at the Costco trip generation, or sorry, the Costco transportation impact analysis that was prepared for the project, it estimates that the Costco project will generate approximately 12,290 trips per day. If you look at the current zoning in the general plan for the project site, the current zoning allows 1 or 2 story buildings and up to 0.5 to 1.0 floor area ratio, which determines how much square footage you can build on that site. Doing some industry standard ITE trip generation for the general plan conditions, we determined that development of 1 story buildings consistent with current zoning would generate up to 12,500 trips per day, and development of 2 story buildings consistent with the general plan zoning would generate up to 25,000 trips per day. And so, as you can see, the Costco project is relatively consistent in the number of trips compared to a 1 story building consistent with the general plan, and it's actually quite a bit less than the theoretical maximum trips that could be generated by the site. Next slide, please. The next question and comment that we've heard a lot is that people are concerned. They want to make sure that the Loomis Costco doesn't have as much traffic and congestion as the Roseville Costco does today. And so this is something that we've looked at carefully, and we want to highlight a number of key differences between the setting where the Loomis Costco would go and the existing Roseville Costco that makes us confident that you won't have that same congestion at Loomis Costco. The first one is just the overall traffic and build out on the major road on which each site is located. Roseville Costco is located on Stanford Ranch Road. There's a significant number of shopping centers nearby, including the Galleria Mall just to the south. And as such, Stanford Ranch Road contains 50,000 daily trips on average adjacent to the Roseville Costco. Meanwhile, Loomis Costco would be located on Sierra College Boulevard, which is far less built out, and the average daily traffic on Sierra College Boulevard with construction of the Loomis Costco is only anticipated to be about 28,000 daily trips, which is quite a bit less than Stanford Ranch Road in Roseville. Additionally, if people want to access the site, a lot of people are going to be heading north to get to the site from I-80. If you're heading north and want to enter the Loomis Costco on Sierra College Boulevard, all you have to do is make a single right turn to access the site using the currently proposed site plan. However, if you're traveling north on Stanford Ranch Road and want to enter the Roseville Costco, you would have to make either a U-turn plus a right turn or 2 left turns before you could enter the parking lot, both combinations of which would be quite a bit more time consuming and cause more delay than the single right turn proposed for Loomis Costco. We also want to note that the parking lot for the Loomis Costco would only house the Costco warehouse itself. So all trips using the Costco parking lot driveways would be associated with the Costco. And contrasting that, the parking lot for the Roseville Costco is shared not only by Costco, but by the entire Stanford Ranch Mall, which contains many grocery stores and other shopping facilities. And as such, the Roseville Costco driveways are loaded with traffic from many sources not even related to Costco itself. Finally, we want to talk about how the local circulation will work around each site. For the Loomis Costco, we're proposing consolidated access points. This will allow us to make sure that all traffic in and out of the site is all traveling in the same direction, minimizes conflicts, and everybody can keep moving forward. Meanwhile, if you look at 5 Star Boulevard adjacent to the Roseville Costco, you will see many closely spaced, high volume driveways all along that roadway, which creates many conflict points and a lot of congestion and slowdown. So based on all these points outlined here, we're very confident that the Loomis Costco traffic situation will be quite a bit better than the Roseville Costco traffic situation. Next slide, please. So the next topic I wanted to just address really quickly is we've had some comments on the project site access, and so we're going to go over a couple of theoretical scenarios that people have requested that the project look at. And I just want to note that the following slides are not proposed changes to the project. They're intended to address comments only. Next slide, please. So one comment that we've received is to consider potential dual northbound right turn lanes and dual southbound left turn lanes into the Costco driveway off of Sierra College Boulevard. And the reason why we don't believe this is a good solution for this site is that by creating 2 entry lanes into the project site, if that was something that were to occur, you would create a pretty significant weaving movement, which would slow down people entering the site and back up cars all the way to Sierra College Boulevard. As an example of why that weaving movement would occur, if you are in the left-right turn lane from Sierra College Boulevard entering the site, and you want to go to get some fuel before you shop at the store, you're actually going to enter the site on the left-hand side internal entryway. You're going to have to merge one lane to the right and then merge into the fuel center. So you're going to be cutting in front of the traffic in the lane next to you to get to your destination. Similarly, if you're using the right-hand turn lane to enter the site, and let's say you want to continue and just park and go to the store first off, that right-hand entry lane only goes to the fueling station. So you're going to have to merge over one lane to your left, cut in front of vehicles in that lane, and then continue on your way. So you're going to, by creating 2 entryways into the Costco store, you would potentially have a significant weave movement that would make overall operations worse. And that's why it is not proposed as part of the project. Next slide, please. And just as a quick example of this type of issue and somewhere where it's actually already happening today, there's an existing weaving condition on Sierra College Boulevard and Granite Drive nearby the Loomis Costco project where this is already occurring. This is not related to or caused by the Costco project at all, but it's a good example of congestion caused by these weaving movements. So if you're headed eastbound on Granite Drive and you want to turn right onto southbound Sierra College Boulevard, as you can see on the image on screen, if you use the right-hand turn lane, you're going to end up in a lane that goes only onto the I-80 westbound ramps. And so if you want to continue south on Sierra College Boulevard, as soon as you turn onto Sierra College Boulevard, you're going to have to start merging left and cutting in front of people. Similarly, if you use the left eastbound right turn lane from Granite onto Sierra College Boulevard, and you want to actually get on that I-80 westbound ramp, as soon as you get on Sierra College Boulevard, you're going to have to start merging to your right and shift lanes, cutting in front of people and slowing traffic down. And so this is a existing source of congestion just nearby the Loomis Costco project site, an example of something that we want to avoid when designing the project. Next slide, please. The final comment that we've received that I want to address is that we have been asked to consider shifting the Costco driveway signal on Sierra College Boulevard about 100 feet further north. And the issue with this is that if the traffic signal and the driveway were shifted further north, it would actually align the project driveway directly in line with the front of the Costco building, which contains the main entrance for shoppers. And as vehicles would enter the site on this alignment, they would almost immediately be conflicting with pedestrians with their shopping carts coming in and out of the main door to the Loomis Costco. And once again, these conflicts would cause a lot of slowdown, a lot of congestion, and would make the overall operations of the site worse. Next slide, please. And with that, that concludes my topics on traffic, and I'd like to hand it back to Anders.
A bit of the project history. The application was made to the town of Loomis in March of 2017. There was a notice of preparation, a draft EIR prepared, Planning Commission public hearing, Planning Commission meetings, and it was decided after reviewing the comments on that initial draft EIR that we needed to go back and address a number of issues, and we recirculated the draft EIR to address those issues, and that recirculation occurred between December and February of last year and this year. The final EIR with response to comments was circulated June 26th through July 7th. And I wanted to note the presentation that Mario just made. All of those issues are addressed either in the recirculated draft EIR or the response to comments, but this was a graphic way to explain to persons the text that we have in those documents. And then the Planning Commission held their meeting on July 7th and unanimously recommended you take the actions to approve the project. And tonight, your meeting and our recommendation is that tonight you have the first reading of the zoning ordinance, and that at the end of the public hearing you continue it to the evening of August 11th. And August 11th is a date that we would like you to consider each of the actions for approval of the project. Next. Wanted to go over the agency coordination beginning prior to the release of the recirculated EIR. We decided we needed to go out and meet with the agencies who had comments, and we wanted to resolve the issues, confirm our approach to the revised or recirculated draft EIR. We wanted to provide the draft traffic analysis so that that could be reviewed by the agencies prior to going into the EIR. We wanted to create the fair share estimates of mitigation costs between Caltrans, Placer County, City of Rockland, and the town of Loomis. And we also redid our modeling, both using the synchro model and the sim traffic modeling that the town or City of Rockland had requested us to use. This is discussed in attachment 6 about the agency coordination efforts. With Caltrans, we had a number of meetings, and they agreed to the Fair Share program. They also agreed to our methodology. They agreed to the assumptions that were made. And if you note in their comments on the recirculated draft ER, they did not talk about traffic because it was taken care of. They currently have the memorandum of agreement with the town for the Fair Share funding, where the town would pay the agreed upon fair share. We also met a number of times with Placer County Resources, the same thing. They agreed to the modeling and the analysis that was conducted. They agreed to the fair share allocation and provided us cost for the county so that we had accurate cost. And they too are considering a memorandum of understanding that the town would then contribute fair share to the projects within Placer County. We also met with South Placer Fire Department. They have responsibility for fire protection, and one of their concerns, the existing tax structure does not cover the costs for this facility. So it actually requires Costco and South Placer come to an agreement on a funding mechanism for an annual basis, and they have been in discussions to achieve that. We also met with Placer County Air Pollution Control District prior to the release of the revised or recirculated draft EIR. They had comments and concerns about how we calculated VMT, and so we went back to them and worked with them in addressing their concerns and actually providing the analysis of VMT that meets their requirements, and that is what has been presented in the final EIR and the response to comments. So they are in concurrence with the way we have calculated vehicle miles traveled for this project. Sierra College, we met with them on one occasion, and after some correspondence, declined to meet with us further, saying that they would just respond to the comments, or they would make comments on the final EIR. City of Rockland, we had a number of meetings with them, emails, phone calls. We, in the last meeting, presented the information, discussed the mitigation, discussed a number of items, and they requested that we provide them the actual traffic impact analysis and also the results of our sim traffic modeling. That was presented to them in the fall of 2019, so it's been about 9 months. And since that date, we left that meeting saying, we're open. You have any questions, you have any concerns, please talk to us. We want to work it out. We have not heard from them, other than the day after the Planning Commission, the planning director wanted to know when you were going to have your meeting, and that's the only communications we've had with Rockland since the fall of 2019. And that invitation has been open and ongoing since that point in time. We also met with a number of concerned citizens, including the apartment owner, Homewood, and had discussions with managers of the Harmon property. We met on site with the apartment owner, and basically we looked at the median strip that was being proposed on Brace Road, and we want to clarify that median strip will only block left-hand turns coming out of the Costco driveway, that the apartments and Homewood will have the access and the ability to make turning movements as they do today. That the final designs, we will make sure that those conditions don't change. For the Harmon property, they were concerned about the existing left-hand turn lane under the long-term conditions, which would be 10 to 15 years. It's possible the left-hand turn lane into their business establishment would be removed, and they just requested to communicate with us with the town over time to make arrangements for make arrangements to have safe access into their property if that happens at that point in time. So we're looking again 10 to 15 years and working with them and making sure they have access to the property. Next slide. So number of requests, and I kind of want to highlight. One, the VMT methodology, there was a question about it, so we decided to go to the state agency responsible and work closely with Placer County Air Pollution Control District to achieve the modeling and conclusions for VMT. There were questions about funding to jurisdictions outside of Loomis. Just be aware the town has offered to reimburse Rockland for their fair share of the I-80 Sierra College interchange. That is not a mitigation measure. That is just an offer that the town has made, and that offer has not been acted on at this time. The town has also offered to reimburse Rockland for cost on the Sierra College CFD. Again, that is not a mitigation measure. That's not required. But at this time, there has been no response from the city of Rockland for that. And then the town has offered to pay the fair share of traffic improvements to Rockland, Caltrans, and Placer County. And each of those agencies has the agreement. Just as a note of information, the fair share calculation indicates that at full condition, the long-term conditions, Costco will contribute about 7% to Sierra College Boulevard traffic, with either the city of Rockland or Placer County or the Homewood contributing 93% to the traffic on Sierra College Boulevard. We were also asked by the town of Rockland the town of Rockland and others to consider two access points to Brace Road and avoid, and that we also had comments from neighbors wanting us to avoid headlights disturbing the residences across from an eastern Brace access. So we did evaluate that as a alternative or an option within the recirculated draft EIR. And after the review and looking at comments, we're coming back to you with a new option 1D, which is proposing the permanent emergency vehicle access on Brace Road east of the Sierra Meadow Apartments, which seems to address the issues and also would not have lights shining into the residences across the street. Next. There was also a request by the City of Rockland that we design a Granite Drive access. And we did that, and that was evaluated in the recirculated draft EIR. Then Rockland came back and said, no, we don't want you to have access to Granite Drive. Costco did a reach agreement with the adjacent property owner to connect Costco through that property to Granite Drive. And we're at a point now with the condition of approval. If the City of Rockland agrees for that access point into the adjacent property, then Costco is required to build that access. And our recommendation is for better flow of traffic and for reducing the traffic on Sierra College Boulevard, that be done. There's also a request to move the main entrance north of Sierra College Boulevard, and Mario just gave the presentation on why that is not recommended. Thinking about it, one of the things that I came to a conclusion is when I've tried to go in front of an entrance in front of Costco, the persons entering and exiting Costco right in front feel they have the right-of-way, and it's always taken me a long time to inch forward trying to get through, where the attitude if you're farther in the parking lot is the cars have the right-of-way and it allows a better flow of traffic. So it's I think Mario did a good job of explaining why we feel this is an unsafe condition to move the entrance. And then also there was a request to provide additional queuing for the fuel station. The fueling station was moved further to the south on the site, and they also came up with a temporary management queuing plan, which is a condition of approval and required if the queuing becomes too severe. And I have a slide showing what that looks like a little bit later. Next. We were asked to, or Costco was asked to retain as many oak trees as possible, so there will be 4 retained on site, and there will be 63 oak trees replanted on site using 24-inch boxes. Also, there was a request to reduce the nighttime noise from trucks and the maintenance of the parking lot, so the conditions of approval require that there's no site maintenance activities between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., and it also requires that delivery trucks use the main entrance off Sierra College Boulevard between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., which addresses those issues. There was also a request that we look at reducing the tire center noise. We're requiring that the closing of doors when possible, so basically bring the car in, close the door, and also using equipment that produces reduced noise level, which Costco has said they are now using. And we have observed this practice at the Citrus Heights site, that they actually close the doors when their cars are in the shop. Next slide. We were also asked to maintain the existing turn movements onto Brace from the adjacent properties, and as discussed earlier, we're going to construct the median to only limit the left-hand turns for the Costco traffic. The other businesses and apartments will be able to retain their existing access. There was also a request that we reduce queuing of traffic on Sierra College Boulevard. Queuing today is a significant impact. It's there today, and in fact the queuing in the modeling is so severe that you can't get into the Costco right-hand turn lane because under the worst case or a extreme condition, the cars are backed up to Granite Drive and you can't make that turn. So what we're recommending is the Loomis capital improvement programs to widen Sierra College Boulevard up to Taylor, the signal coordination, and the additional lanes and striping improvements, which will mitigate the existing conditions and mitigate the impacts that Costco has, both short-term and long-term, on the Sierra College Boulevard. There was also a request to protect the existing water well at Sierra Meadows apartment, and so we have assured that any activities that would impact that are at least 50 feet away pursuant to state guidelines from the water well, and the design you have in front of you today achieves that. It was also requested that we use a sim traffic model, and we ran the sim traffic model and provided that information to the City of Rockland for their review, again, last October. Next slide. So quickly, CEQA disclosure. Due to the project components, basically the things that have been built into the project design, there are impacts that are considered to be less than significant or no impacts. There are also a number of impacts that have been mitigated to a less than significant level, and there are 18 mitigation measures recommended to accomplish that. And also there are jurisdictional limitations on the implementation of mitigation, since we need Caltrans, Placer County, and City of Rockland to agree to those. So as you see in the next few slides, there are impacts that have been identified as significant and unavoidable, because we can't guarantee that these other agencies will implement the projects with the funding that is provided by the project. Next slide. So there are biological resources that are significant and unavoidable, including the permanent fill of wetlands, loss of protected oaks, loss of valley oak, woodland habitat, loss of disturbance of nesting migratory birds, loss and disturbance habitat for nesting raptors, indirect adverse impacts on the steelhead population, and also potential mortality and loss of habitat for the western spadefoot toad. So those are all documented in the recirculated EIR. Greenhouse gases, there will be generation of greenhouse gases that are a significant unavoidable impact. And there is also a conflict with the applicable plan, policy, and regulation regarding reducing the GHG that we're identifying as a significant impact. The only noise impact we've identified is the exposure of people to the short-term construction noise, and after that we believe the mitigation measures reduce noise to less than significant. There are significant unavoidable traffic impacts. Again, we have to call them this because we have to have the cooperation of the other agencies to implement the mitigation. But there would be degradation of levels of service at intersections and a potential for creation of substantial traffic-related hazards. Next slide. And then there are cumulative impacts. So this is when you have one or more coming together, and we have cumulative impacts for biological resources, greenhouse gas, short-term plus long-term intersection operations, long-term plus intersection operations, creation of substantial traffic-related hazards under the short-term plus project, and potential for creation of substantial traffic-related hazards under the cumulative long-term project conditions. Next slide. We have reviewed the general plan for consistency. That consistency analysis has been provided to you, attachment 4, Exhibit 4A in your staff report. We've also reviewed the zoning consistency, which includes review and the conditional use permit, the design review, and those are dealt with under the conditions of approval to address those issues. And also, we have a zoning consistency with a lot line adjustment, and the recommendation is that is approved with conditions of approval to assure compliance with your zoning code. Quickly, the town's objectives are to locate warehouse retail uses and a fueling station near existing interchanges to minimum impacts to the remainder of Loomis. To locate the warehouse uses and fueling stations so as to not conflict with the character, scale, architecture of the historic central business district along Taylor Road. To locate the warehouse retail on land sufficient to provide the necessary facilities for that type of use. To improve the Loomis's commercial base, to increase municipal revenues through increased retail sales, taxes, as well as employee spending, and provide a wider range of goods and services to the local residents, in addition to encouraging uses near the freeway, and to expand the space available for integrated retail sales of goods and services and fuel in the town of Loomis. Next. So tonight, the recommendation is that you introduce the first reading of the zoning ordinance amendment, and we're recommending on August the 11th, a week from tonight, that you approve the Costco project subject to the findings and conditions, including a resolution with the CEQA findings, and to certify the final environmental impact report, the EIR mitigation monitoring and reporting program, to adopt the zoning ordinance, second reading, to pass a resolution to approve the lot line adjustment, and to pass a resolution to approve the warehouse retail conditional use permit design review. So at this time, Costco, we have a representative from Costco here, and he will make a presentation. And that's Mike DeBroda.
Hi, I'm Mike DeBroda. I'm the real estate representative for Costco. I would like to thank the council and the mayor for giving us a chance to speak. I'd also like to thank the staff for the 3 hard years with consultants, experts, analysts to come up with this presentation for a project for Costco. It's been a long time coming. I started this project 2016. So I kind of felt like I should come here tonight to basically answer some questions, if there are any, from the public or from the council itself. There is a little bit of a presentation here. I haven't been on a day-to-day with this, so these are some of the things that have already been discussed. Landscaping, site changes, setbacks, that are on here, especially from the east side of the property. The setback from the residence is over there. There's sound walls. And they already talked about the reduced height of the lot lights. So let's go on to the next one. This is one of the elevations. What we really tried to do was to take a look at some of the architecture within the town, the packing type buildings and things like that. So we're going to use the metal building with signage on the building, landscaping in front, trellises to break it up a little bit. Go on to the next one. And this is just showing some of how the building will be broke up so it's not a big mass and where the signage is. With that, I'm also going to say a couple of other things. With this project that I started, I also had numerous meetings with adjacent property owners. As far as the lot line adjustment, I negotiated that with Mr. Gusick, who's here today, and we're hell-bent on making sure that happens. It wasn't as easy as I thought. You can't just move a line on the ground and make a lot line adjustment, evidently, in California. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to honor that. It's just a matter of getting through the process. I've had some discussions on site. I'm the kind of a real estate guy that throws things against the wall to see if it could work. I've had a number of discussions with Bob and with Daljit regarding what ifs. Didn't go that far. I also met with, at one time, the mayor of Rockland to see what their concerns were and how Costco could be a better neighbor. But this has gone on for, as we all know, 3 to 4 years, and we're here today. But I want to tell you one thing that Costco looks at. They're going to look at this project, and they want to make sure it works, because we're membership driven. And if the members aren't happy, they call, they write letters, and then we're out there making changes, and we all know when you make changes it becomes costly, so we want to get it right the first time. So I applaud the consultants that have put together this package. They put a lot of effort into it. I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years, and I don't know if anybody has done the analysis like this for a project. So I would like to just basically make myself available to answer any questions that you may have, or I don't know what the process is. If after the public speaks there may be more questions, I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
So we are going to have the co-applicant come up, or shall we do more questions now with
The co-applicant.
Okay. So if you don't mind, we'll talk with the co-applicant, and then after that we'll have questions, and then we'll be able to go back and forth at that time.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Bob Agushchik. My family and I own the apartments on Brace Road. We've been trying to work with Costco and the town for 3 years now. Over that time, it's become very clear that the town is more interested in tax revenue from Costco than trying to work out issues with surrounding businesses and residents. There are numerous problems with this project. The right-in, right-out restriction on Brace Costco entrance will force cars down Brace Road and force them through the apartment parking lot and create a turnaround for those vehicles. This will create a very unsafe condition where kids play and people walk to their homes. I have been using the apartment west entrance for over 16 years, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. I would argue that our existing entrance is too close to Sierra College. Cars coming off of Sierra College quickly accelerate to well over the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit and give you very little time to make a decision to pull out. Cars traveling west on Brace Road are also moving at a much higher rate of speed. With the Homewood entrance awkwardly offset from the apartment entrance, adding a Costco entrance next to our west entrance is not safe. The sightline triangles that are being used in the memo attached to the staff report do not consider cars parked on Brace Road. The town has reassured me that the street parking is not going to go away. Why don't these sight triangles consider parking on Brace Road? The nighttime restriction on trucks through Brace Road entrance is not enforceable and will have a severe impact on the livability of the apartments. And lastly, the EIR does not actually interpret the lot line agreement between Costco and the apartments. On December 17th, 2019, before signing this lot line adjustment application, I requested a meeting with the town to discuss how the lot line adjustment would be done. In our meeting, Anders and Mary Beth reassured me that the lot line adjustment was a simple, easy step that would take a month or so to complete and could be approved at staff level. I left the meeting feeling satisfied the lot line adjustment would be done as a standalone application outside the project. Based on the meeting, I signed the application and sent it back to Costco. It is now very clear that the town representatives were not truthful with me once again and actually deceived me into thinking that they would process a lot line adjustment independent of the project. The town's lack of transparency and disregard for the existing apartments is the reason that I can no longer support this project. I was totally on board with Mike when this thing first came around, and I have just lost all respect for the town at this point.
All right, now we're going to go back to the council, and do you have any questions for any of the speakers?
I do. Madam Mayor?
Please.
Well, those are some pretty serious charges that have been laid out against the town, so I would like staff to have an opportunity to bring that, to discuss those charges about the lot line adjustment application.
When we met early on the lot line adjustment, it appeared to be a simple process, and typically it is a simple process. But in this case, there were some issues with too many lots, and therefore we were looking that this was not a lot line adjustment, but it was going to have to be a subdivision map. Then there was additional research done, and the town certified that some of those lots actually had been merged before. And the other thing that we became aware of was the town code requires when you have a project, a combined project, that you have to process that together through the end of the process. So the lot line adjustment is being processed as part of the Costco project since they're interrelated and integral to each other. And so this did not turn out to be the simple lot line adjustment that Mary Beth, as your planning director, can typically approve.
Okay. Well, that's an explanation. I guess that's different than what I think the applicant is claiming, that we were not transparent and several other charges of ethics. So it sounds like we probably should have had more information when the applicant came into the office, so that we provided better direction and expectations. So, you know, those kind of things happen. I'm not saying that that makes anything easier for the co-applicant, but you know, to say that, you know, we were breached our ethical duty, I think, is you know, a pretty serious charge. We have a fantastic staff here in Loomis, and while we don't always get it right, we do pretty good here to be straightforward with the public. And so I would appreciate if you could just cut some slack to the staff on that, in that regard.
I'm only stating facts.
You know, everybody's interested in process until they understand it, and so once process is understood, it's more complicated, and I think than a lot of people really realize. That's it for me on that item. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I was speaking with Mike DeBroda every week on this for a year. And I know that Mike was having meetings with you for over a year on getting this lot line adjustment done. Michael Akuma actually wrote a letter to you guys saying, we have to do this whether we do it in the project or outside the project. We want this done. The town attorney actually called my attorney and told him that it was his idea to take this to make this part of the project, because the town had some idea that they had some right to this property. So how do you answer that?
So when you say that the town had some right to this property, I I also have a quick question. When you started to talk about the lot line adjustment, did Costco actually own the property at that time?
No.
Okay, so there was a little bit of a delay until the actual property was in their hands.
There was, a few months. I don't remember exactly how long. But the only thing that triggered our agreement was them purchasing the property, which they did shortly thereafter.
Madam Mayor, if I could add just a couple of other comments. The other issue that Anders didn't mention is because this is being done in the context of the Costco project, we could not approve this piece prior to the approval of the environmental document. If we had approved the lot line adjustment prior to the approval of the environmental document, it would have raised the possibility of a challenge from those who are inclined to file a lawsuit against this project, claiming that we had split the project, which is illegal under CEQA. So it's unfortunate, but this was not a simple, straightforward lot line adjustment between two parties who had no project in mind. It was clearly being done in the context of the Costco project.
Right. So initially it started out with thinking that it would be a simple thing because we weren't thinking about the lots, and then realizing that there was actually going to be a subdivision. And did we notify the co-applicant as we found out things as we were going through? Did you let him know what was going on?
I didn't even know what the application was. I signed an application for
Just
a
1
lot
minute,
line
sir.
adjustment.
Mr. Guschek, I
Okay.
respect your time for sure, but I'd like to hear from the staff.
As we hit each of the steps and came with new information, Costco and Mr. Agusa were provided letters as to where we stood and where we were in the process.
Okay.
It wasn't as fast as we wanted, but
Right.
they were informed.
Yeah. Well, again, I can reiterate, Councilmember Underco, working with the staff that we've had, certainly would have no ill will towards you, and this project is huge, something of which we've never had before, and definitely apologize for some misinformation, but I can hardly believe that it was ever intended to be such. So, does anybody else have it? Go ahead.
I have a question from, I have a question from Mr. Agassi. When you purchased the property, that was back in 2006? Is that 2004? So I'm sure you were unaware that the property, the lot line that was what you thought was part of your property, you weren't aware of that, right?
No, it was actually represented that we owned to the middle of Starlight at the time. And I just assumed because we had parking spots, garbage pickup, and a storage building on that property that it was ours. The title, company highlighted it, and I didn't question it.
So you've been operating for 16 years and without any problem as far as doing your business, people coming and going to your apartment complex?
No.
So my question is at this point in time, with such a big project, why are you in such a rush to get this done right at this time? Is there something pending that...
As I told the staff, we were actually planning on selling the apartments, and I said all this in the last meeting, and we're getting ready to put them on the market when Mike DeBroda approached me with this lot line adjustment. And so, when I talked to Mike, it sounded like a month or two and this thing was going to be done, and so we entered into this agreement. Then a year and a half later, it's still not done, and we have to put all our plans on hold.
So you would be unable to sell the property because of the lot line that you inherited?
Yeah, and just the uncertainty that I was getting, just the uncomfortable feeling I was getting from the town. I wasn't getting straight answers. One day they announced they're closing our entrance. you know, another day they're restricting the west entrance. Now they're not restricting the west entrance. None of these conversations were had with me before they were announced. They were just announced.
Right. And
So the site visit that Anders talked about happened a week and a half ago. That was the first site visit to the apartments by the town in 3 years, with me at least.
with, yes.
So,
So my concern is when someone makes accusations like that about, it seems like you know without a doubt that there was ill intent upon.
I'm not saying there was ill intent. I'm saying that I was misled. And
Right. But at this point in time, the town has been working and Costco has been working too, and there's nothing to tell you any different that the lot line adjustment would not be done.
Well, but we had a signed agreement that didn't mention a project, only said that should Costco purchase the property, they will perform this lot line adjustment.
Right.
And so, you know, we can sit here and interpret that all we want, but it's pretty straightforward. And I think if anyone in this room looked at it, they would deduct the same thing I did, that this thing was going to happen fairly quickly and, you know, there weren't going to be any strings attached.
All right, thank you.
Well, there's always strings attached in a real estate transaction, okay? And my understanding of the transaction or the would-be transaction is much different than I think what you're saying.
Okay.
So having said all of that, what's to stop you from selling the property at a fair market price right now?
What's to stop me? I've had probably 4 brokers call me during the course of the last year, wanting to make offers on it on behalf of clients. And the minute I mention that there is a lot line adjustment, a possible dispute with the town and Costco, everybody goes away.
Well, you have I understand you have, you had a willing buyer who's sitting in this room right now, and so.
Are you speaking of Costco? Yeah, at a fraction of what the property was worth.
That's not my understanding, but.
Well, you guys don't have an understanding. I had a broker in here at the last meeting that will vouch for. I've contacted 3 or 4 brokers, and they've all come up within $200,000 what the value of the apartments are. It's based on the rent. It's pretty much straightforward.
Yeah, cap rate.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm good on this item. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anybody over here have any questions? No? All right. And no questions for staff or anybody else right now? Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I do have a question on the synchro model and sim model, okay? I get a little bit confused at times. So we were using which traffic model?
The town uses a synchro model.
The synchro model.
Correct.
So when Rockland asked us to use the sim model, we said, okay, we'll use the sim model as well as the synchro model.
That is correct.
And the results came back and they were...
Similar, and I would ask if Mario could talk to you about that, because he's the one who did the analysis between the 2 models. So if you could bring Mario up, that would be appreciated. He's on. You're on, Mario.
Yes, I'm on.
Did you hear that?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, so like Andrew said, we primarily performed the synchro analysis for the project. And after requests from Rockland, we performed a supplemental sim traffic analysis for one of the primary plus project scenarios, and then compared the findings, the level of service, delays, and the queues produced by both models at all the study intersections And we generally found, while there was, some variations, in some cases synchro produced better or worse results, and in some cases some traffic produced better or worse results, the overall story was generally consistent. And the general number of impacts and areas where intersections were impacted were generally consistent.
Know the answer to this, Mario, or maybe Anders does, but has Rockland used this model on all of their projects on the Sierra College Boulevard corridor? Have they used that same model they requested us to use?
Mario, I will let you address that because you did the research, but the brief answer is they have used both models in their environmental documents.
And what
Yes,
okay.
basically Rockland actually primarily used synchro and similar equation-based softwares for all their analysis, including on Sierra College Boulevard, or I should say the majority of their analysis, all the way up until recently, as far as recently as 2017, 2018, to my knowledge. So that includes their prior general plan circulation element update, as well as traffic studies done for developments in the area. It's just been in the last couple of years where they've switched over to primarily using sim traffic specifically for the Sierra College Boulevard corridor. But they still use synchro for the majority of other intersections they analyze throughout the city.
And you should be aware that the town used the Rockland model as our model. So we use the inputs that were developed by Rockland. So we took their model and actually ran their model.
So we've been consistent with the modeling that's been going on with Rockland's traffic synchro or sim model?
Correct. When the notice to proceed, the notice of preparation went out for the Costco EIR, and we scoped out the original traffic study, we were consistent with the methodologies Rockland used at the time. And there was no guidelines in the city of Rockland that stated some traffic should be used for traffic analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I do have some comments. So is there more to the presentation?
I think it's done, and then we're going to open up the public comment.
Okay. I'll wait for my comments until public comment's over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So before we move on to the public comment, I want to go ahead and read this process again. We will now open for public comment. We will first take public comment from those in the building. Please remember to stand on the blue X marks on the floor to maintain proper physical distancing. Once those inside have commented, we will call in those who are waiting outside. When those in-person commenters are finished, we will open public comment via the Zoom platform. If you are participating via Zoom software, please click in the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you are participating via phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. We will identify you by either your name or the last 3 numbers of your phone number. Please note that you will have 3 minutes for your comment. Once you reach 3 minutes, we will ask you to please wrap your comments up. If you do not wrap your comments up in a few seconds, we will need to mute your microphone. So with that said, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, Britt, our Public Works Director, will be keeping time on his iPad over there. So
Okay.
when we get to 3 minutes, he'll wave to let you know that
So-
the time's up.
Well, raise your hand, Britt, so everybody knows who you are.
I'll raise my hand at 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Okay.
And 3 minutes, I'll start, stand up, wave, yell,
Okay.
whatever it takes.
All right. Anybody would like to give some public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My name is Daljeet Bains, and 3 years in the making, unfortunately, we're back to the same site plan. And it's very disappointing. I was hoping that Costco and the town would work together to come up with a traffic plan and a site plan that is more conducive to the traffic impacts and doesn't violate a lot of the CEQA guidelines. So the project description has gone through numerous changes as it applies to Brace Road. The most recent change is the modification of Brace Road that restricts the Costco entrance to right in, right out, while allowing left turns into Homewood and left turns in and out of Sierra Meadow Apartments. The changing project description with respect to Brace Road reflects the uncertainty the project will create with respect to traffic and safety impacts on Brace Road. It amounts to a we will figure it out as we go approach when it comes to Brace Road. The town changes the entrance exit, realizes that there's a problem, then changes it again, only to discover additional problems. And again, my traffic consultant, Dan Smith, who received the comments today, points out the significant flaws in the changes to Brace Road, such as the failure to meet the requirements of the development manual standard, and that given the speed of travel on Brace Road, there is not sufficient space between driveways. Mr. Smith also points out that the site triangles depicted in the improvements memo by Mario from memo are not clear and fails to disclose that the sight lines from the 2 driveways predicted in the memo would be obstructed by the wall and landscaping. The final EIR fails to state how this mitigation measure will be enforced, as the Brace Road access will not be gated or controlled. Mitigation measures must be enforceable under CEQA. Simply stating that a driveway cannot be used between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. does not mean that trucks will not use the driveway if it's more convenient to them. Moreover, simply putting a sign at the Brace Road driveway would not suffice, as the driver would have already gone right and made a turn on Brace Road and wouldn't have seen that. The tire center doors shall be closed whenever pneumatic wrenches and tire breakers are used to the maximum extent feasible. The reliance on a mitigation measure to be implemented only when feasible does not satisfy CEQA requirements. That mitigation measures cannot be deferred. The mitigation measure is also not enforceable. The final EIR fails to adequately consider an alternative that moves the footprint of the large Costco warehouse to a different location on the property that would allow for a more effective ingress and egress scheme from Sierra College Boulevard. This would eliminate the need for an access point on Brace Road, thus eliminating the truck entrance and exit on Brace Road, avoiding the noise impacts and traffic safety impacts.
Thank you, Daljit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Randy, and I've been a resident of Loomis for about 8 years. I live in a residential area located on the periphery of the proposed Costco. I will be directly affected by the traffic and the noise from this project. Another point I would like to make is the need for more stores in this area is redundant. There's 3 gas stations, there's a Walmart, and there's a Target. The need for more stores is to me ridiculous. I would also like to, Mario made a point in comparing Roseville Costco and our Costco. The major difference is in the Roseville Costco, there is no residential area around that Costco. There is blocks away, but not on the periphery of that Costco. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pat Brechtel, 5815 Brace Road, and I manage the Blue Goose building here. Man, what a joy it is to see an event happening here. We haven't had events since March, so it's great to see an event going on here. Everybody. Rockland holds a grudge. You know, I've been here for, 20-some years, and Rockland holds a grudge. I don't know if any of you were on the council and such before, but Loomis didn't make it real easy for Rockland to get something done either. So every dog's got its day. So this is going to, when Homewood was built, it was going to be the worst traffic nightmare ever. You know what? Homewood's been there, and they've been some of the best, from my standpoint, a very good neighbor in the community. And the traffic, from my standpoint, didn't turn horrendous. This man right here, I've always wanted to meet him, and I hope the town and the Costco and this guy can get back together, because it sounds like you were 100% on board with this and something screwed up. And to lose his support, I think, is horrendous. So really, I hope that they can work this out with you. If the Costco keeps getting postponed, I hope the people are sitting here and are watching on Zoom don't want to postpone it. If it's going to happen, the sooner it happens, the less at least it's going to cost. Every month, year that goes by, the costs go up and our revenue goes down, for our town. Let's see here. I think we're lucky to have Costco coming here, and the people that live up in Meadow Vista and all the surrounding areas that don't have to drive into Roseville. And the manager at the Roseville Costco has told me, they said they can't wait till this opens, to relieve some of that pressure. And when Mario shows us these traffic studies, I love traffic studies. Whoever did the one to make the merging into the Galleria and all that, that worked great. So if the same people are working on this, I think the traffic will take care of itself. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to get this store, and it's going to be close by. And that's about it. I hope it goes through. I support your project, Costco, 100%.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Chen, and I'm the proprietor of the Loomis Beauty Salon, well, when it's open. And I moved to the apartments 2 years ago, and I had moved there in 1985 when I was 20 years old, and it was really nice. And so when I was looking to downgrade and have an easier life, I remembered how quiet and nice and well kept it was. And when I went to look, and the new owner, he definitely has kept it very nice, and he doesn't put up with any riffraff. And in my section that I know of are health provider workers, a Home Depot worker. We're all professionals, and we all go to bed at night and sleep, and it's very quiet, and we support our town. Now, I support Costco, and I shop there, but I am worried about the noise and the impact of the traffic and the parking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeannie Farias, and I'm the on-site manager at the Sierra Meadows Apartments right now. I have lived in Loomis for 22 years. Clearly, I do see a safety issue coming out of the west side where that wall is going to be. And what I see happening, even though we have that wall, people are going to be hesitant to use that exit from the apartment. Right now, people come in the apartment through Starlight and they go out the other end. That's 90% of what happens there. But right now, having that be a safety issue, everybody's going to be coming out the other end. We do not have the room in that parking lot for that to happen. Not to mention we have children, and quite a few children, and we have school buses. I know we're not in school right now, but then we have school buses from the Loomis Union that picks these children up for school. So what do we do with them? So are they going to have to go through the park? Where are we going to fit all these people? We can't. We're going to be so congested. If you go back there and you can see we have enough back there, our parking. Front we have our parking. Then we have school buses that have to pick up these children. Hopefully we'll be done with this COVID and they go to school. Recently in July, on 4th of July, probably a little busier than normal because of the holiday, somebody came in and did a turnabout in that Starlight Lane. Well, I bought a brand new car in January. They backed right into my driver's door, $3,000 worth of damage, and left. So that's just an idea. And I know you guys are trying to do the time and the noise and all these things. We do have several people, or I would say a handful of people, that are night workers. So they come home and they sleep in the daytime. And these are people that are truck drivers taking our food to places, like Randy mentioned, Home Depot and so forth. So we have a right to have this environment in our home and this piece. So just something to consider. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Kretz and fellow council members. My name is Daniel Cucci. I'm with the law firm of Abbott and Kinderman, and we represent the city of Rockland in its review of this project. As I'm sure you know, we have submitted several comment letters on behalf of the city, and we believe the comments speak for themselves, so I won't belabor those points tonight. Instead, I'd like to help clarify a few things that sometimes get misconstrued or misunderstood when agencies disagree about something. To the public, it can seem like it's just a family squabble. Rest assured, this is not a simple squabble over the location of a Costco in Loomis. Believe it or not, the city has a vested interest in the success of Loomis. Your economic success is Rockland's economic success, particularly so because a shared border and shared infrastructure can dramatically affect each agency's bottom line. Shared infrastructure requires honest and open cooperation from all parties. It also requires shared contributions, which are immensely easier when both Loomis and Rockland are economically successful. So even if someone wants to take the cynical view, Rockland's best interests still require Loomis's success, particularly so when it involves the shared Sierra College Boulevard corridor. People love Costco. I know because I'm a member too. But Costco operations also drive a lot of traffic, which in many ways is fantastic for them and financially fantastic for Loomis. And that there is the rub. It has become clear to me over these months and years that the town's team is convinced that the Sierra College Boulevard will operate just fine as designed with the inclusion of the proposed mitigation. I don't challenge that. But I also know that Rockland staff and their traffic expert have very serious concerns about this conclusion. It is partly due to what is a relatively novel circulation design that relies primarily on a single access point directly connected to Sierra College Boulevard. This appropriately requires a new traffic signal. This adds a fourth traffic signal on the corridor between I-80 and Taylor Road, which is only about a half a mile long. It doesn't help that Costco has concluded that they don't need to share some of their underlying data, which we have requested. As we have explained in our comments, this data would allow Rockland staff to get more comfortable with the ER's conclusions, or perhaps identify something that can help Rockland and Loomis potentially find an amicable solution. Unfortunately, we have reached an impasse. At this point, I think it is reasonable to presume that one conclusion is probably mostly right and one is probably mostly wrong. But if Rockland is right, the risk is substantial, and it will cause significant problems along the corridor. And by the time these issues manifest themselves, it will likely be too late to address them. Getting it right now is important and has serious implications for everyone involved. Right now is the time to make sure this is done right.
It's time.
Thank you for listening, and I can answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much.
I'm Michael Fortunato, and I live at 5350 Brace. The funny thing is you are pretty much the person I probably want to talk to or have questions for, more so than the panel here. My understanding is that you have contacted the City of Rockland a number of times to get that Granite Drive entrance. Is that correct? And they have been unresponsive, is that correct? And would you agree to that? Is that correct? That is not correct. All right, so I don't know how this works because I've never done this, but I'm very curious to know what is the reasoning behind Rockland not yet agreeing to that particular entrance, because I think that would actually mitigate a lot of issues and a lot of traffic issues that we have concerns about. Can anyone answer, either the lawyer for Rockland or you guys, why this is an issue? It's up in the air, why there hasn't been some sort of mitigation. Is there something that Costco needs to do? Is there something that Loomis needs to do? Or is there something that Rockland is required to do at this point?
So if that's all your questions, you'll have 3 minutes. So if you want to ask all of your questions, then...
That's it. That's the most... I figured other people have actually asked other ones I had. So that is really it.
We'll get to answer those after everybody's done.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Evening, my name is Richard Salmeron. I live at 5390 in the apartments right there on Brace. A couple of concerns that I didn't have or hear brought up were the trucks loading there on Brace. Trucks put off a lot of smoke, a lot of diesel, they're boxing the apartments in with the wall. The only current breeze to keep that place not stagnant comes from where Costco is going to be. So that area will be boxed in and trapped and stagnant with trucks coming through, and Homewood across the street. I'm thinking about that, kids living there, living conditions, feeling like you're in LA in a tiny apartment complex. Also too, with people missing the entrance or purposely passing the entrance to make a right turn there, realizing they can't turn around with the medium, cutting through the apartments as well, or passing that down further on Brace Road, there's really no U-turn areas. So people are going to be ducking in and out of driveways or skipping that whole entrance completely to turn around to try to get back into Costco if the line is backed up as well. So those are things I didn't hear, or in part anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Adam Nurani. I live in Loomis on Moretta Lane. I'm here both as a citizen of Loomis, but also representing an entity called Brace Taylor LLC, which is the landowner of the Homewood lumber property. My family, 2 sisters and mother, are the co-owners to that entity, so I'm representing them as well. We all have very deep concerns about the traffic impacts and how that will affect the functionality of the Homewood site as a very successful building supply entity in the town of Loomis. And as you are aware, Homewood has been, and I believe currently is, the leading tax revenue generator for this town. So I do ask the town to really take a very proactive effort to make sure that this project doesn't diminish Homewood's ability to function. We are very concerned the traffic study is inaccurate. There's obviously been public comment and reports done by Dan Smith and Piers and Furr. So, we're concerned that maybe this traffic is going to have a much greater impact and it's going to create a lot greater congestion around Homewood streets. It's important to understand Homewood does operate a lot of commercial vehicles, both vendor vehicles coming in, Homewood vehicles exiting, and it relies heavily on the ability to get those trucks out of the lumber yard and back to Highway 80 as expeditiously as possible. This project does give us big concerns about a lot of congestion, both from Highway 80 to Homewood on Sierra College. We also foresee a lot of queuing and a lot of congestion on our Sierra College exit. And if you can imagine, it would be very difficult to send an 18-wheeler out onto Sierra College, and how's that truck going to get back to Highway 80? So, that's a situation where you're going to send your truck through the town of Loomis or through Rockland. So we really need to give some serious consideration as to how those impacts affect Homewood's exiting, especially large trucks. But we're concerned about the impacts of the Brace Road, added right in, right out, and how that'll create excessive U-turn traffic out of Costco, how that's going to diminish our ability to exit trucks onto Brace Road as well. And in closing, I appreciate all your efforts. We don't oppose Costco, but we do oppose the traffic studies, and we feel like there's a lot more mitigation and effort needed to make sure that these two operations can coexist. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Hi, my name's Pam Blake, and I was here for the Planning Commission, and I spoke, and I still haven't gotten my question answered, and Michael, the Director of Real Estate Development, was not here. He was here on telephone. There was a lot of people speaking out. They had comments and concerns, and then after the public comment section was over, Michael was asked to address those concerns. And now this is a public record. I went back and watched 2 hours and 55 minutes of it, and Michael stated, let's make this simple. It's a great project. If you have specific questions, I'm here to address them. I'd like my question answered. And looking today over the 300 plus pages, I see my name, and I asked. He made a big deal, 5, 6 plus times he knew where his customers are, or as a tonight members. So I did not get my response, but I see it typed after the fact, and it says Costco has a database of members and their location, but that information is irrelevant to the discussion of the warehouse that serves not only the town but the region. But I disagree with that because he made a big deal. And I would still like to know that because I was at that first meeting. The notices were sent out to the residents. I found out about it. I showed up. He said it. I asked him. He said he didn't know. So he was implying that, you know, it was going to benefit us directly. So it is not irrelevant, and it does say that it's my opinion. It's not my opinion. There were other people there that overheard that too. The other thing is, I talked about the traffic. Here's a picture. It's of the Roseville one. You could see it all backed up. The 2 lanes are backed up and it's backed up past this light, and there is no residence around that. Now, today I had an appointment, so I purposely came down Sierra College Boulevard. It was slow at 3:30. So I can't believe from Mario that Homewood does 93% of the traffic and Costco is going to do 7%. And I also read, and it was brought up, nighttime deliveries from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. You got 4 dogs.
Thank you, Pam.
You got 4
Thank you.
and the trucks are coming in.
What was the question? Madam Mayor, what was the question?
I believe, I just want to make sure, Pam, that your question you want to have answers is where do they get their members? Is that your question?
From Loomis.
From Loomis, right?
I just want to know how many members live in Loomis.
Okay.
That's all I want to know. I don't
Okay.
need their addresses or anything.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I want to know.
Hi, my name is Diana Gooschik, and I'm the co-owner of the Sierra Meadows Apartments. And I actually have a question for Mike Labrota from Costco. I was curious to know if you have ever, in the history of Costco, put a commercial warehouse right into a residential neighborhood. Has that ever been done before, where there are 30-foot, 3-sided sound walls in a neighborhood, in an apartment complex? Is that something that you do, or is Loomis your guinea pig? I'm just curious. I would also like to, on a side note, I want to say thank you for at least giving us the opportunity to have microphones that work at this meeting. We can actually be heard this time, and we appreciate you for that. The annoying echo at the last meeting was very frustrating and embarrassing, and it was completely disrespectful. I think we all deserve an apology for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard Jackson from Loomis.
I think the right in, right out going on Brace Road, using a commercial building, commercial industry, dumping onto residential roads is against the law, just flat out. I think by the time that Costco's people coming in off of 80 start backing up traffic on 80, the highway patrol will be coming in there going, what the heck's going on? Because they're going to have traffic jams on 80. They're going to have traffic jams at the when the train goes by, because you got a train within a block and a half of Costco, and half a mile down Brace Road is a concrete embankment that's 14 foot wide. Barely enough room for a truck and a car to go by at the same time. That bridge is as old as this town is. And it's not going to change. And in that water is little trout. And the dirt that's going to come from their parking lot over to my house, I'll be wearing this thing for the rest of my life in my backyard. Just because of the dirt coming over that 8-foot wall. You're not going to stop that. You can sweep it all day, then trucks are going to blow it up in the air. It's going to come right back down into my drive. Under my windows get washed 3 times a week now, just because of the traffic going down Brace Road without Costco. Just normal people trying to get to work every day. At 4:30, it starts, coming up there as fast as they can go to get to Brace to get out. That's just people that live there. All those people are going to be impacted, really impacted. You know, Costco will be open at 5:30 in the morning, but you're going to have all these other idiots that come out of Costco going, what is this road? It's a country road. We got to do something. We got to turn around. And we're going to turn around right in front of my house. And I don't like it. And I think when we first met, you just said, this is a big project. It don't belong in Loomis. Auburn didn't want it. And Auburn's twice the size as us. And you guys...
30 seconds.
And you guys have told us before, don't worry about it. We won't do that to you guys. We won't put traffic down Brace Road. But yet, everyone's got to exit out on Brace Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Loomis Town Council. My name is Patricia Bach. I've lived in the unincorporated section of Loomis for 27 years, and I am a Costco member. I love Costco. What I've said at past meetings is I hate the traffic, and that's my major issue. I think looking around the room, most of us have masks on. I took it off so I could speak more clearly. I think this speaks to the issue of how, in some situations, we're all in this together. COVID is a bigger issue than Costco coming to Loomis, but the same process or concept holds true to this process and how it impacts not only the town of Loomis, but the surrounding areas, particularly relative to traffic. I've thought about this a lot. I've attended the previous meetings. I've spoken on record twice before, and my major concern is the traffic mitigation. Regardless of what the traffic engineers say, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it's impossible to fit 12,000 cars on Sierra College Boulevard without there being a significant impact. I think any effort to try and mitigate that or try to pretend that that's not going to be a major problem is magical thinking. So looking at this from the bigger picture, my disappointment at the whole process is what I consider a crisis of leadership. If it were possible to consider the fact that there are 3 surrounding gas stations on surrounding corners and eliminate the gas station, that would eliminate approximately 4,000, I think, cars a day, or maybe more. That would make a huge impact on traffic, no question about it. I have seen, I have not seen, nor have I heard any effort on the part of Loomis Planning Commission, anybody who represents the town of Loomis, or from Costco to make a good faith effort to compromise so we can have a win-win situation. We are all in this together one way or the other. So to the town council, to you, Mayor, and to the town council, this is your leadership legacy. The decision you make to accept the process, the project as it's currently presented will be your legacy. Long after you're out of office, it will impact the life of the people that live in Loomis Town proper and on the surrounding areas for years and years to come. And to sell that area short and the people that live in those areas for the money that could be made by the additional fueling station, I think is very, very short-sighted. In closing, maybe this is a David and Goliath situation, and we know how that worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment for people in the building? And there's nobody waiting outside, is that right? No? So we have public comment. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ryan DiMartini. I'm the current president of the Loomis Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the board of directors, we would like to express our support for the proposed Costco. The Chamber Economic Development Committee works hand in hand with the town of Loomis on developing a cohesive plan to revitalize the downtown corridor while maintaining its existing charm and historical roots. We would like to request that the town of Loomis and Costco work with the Loomis Basin Chamber and the Loomis Basin Historical Society in making sure the proposed fruit label artwork for the retaining wall along Sierra College be consistent with the downtown Loomis Legacy Loop walking mural tour. We've seen many changes in our downtown in the past few years. One of the biggest barriers to change within our downtown has been business owners retiring and leaving properties vacant. While the property owners cannot commit to improving, leasing, or selling their buildings, we're finally seeing many of those reasons being resolved. And we are working with several individuals to bring in new, unique, experience-based businesses that would be a good fit for our downtown. We feel Costco could help to continue to draw other successful restaurants and boutique shops into our downtown. We believe that Costco's reputation as a quality retailer will not only draw many traveling tourists/customers to the area, but will also be a catalyst that will convey them to our local downtown businesses to purchase additional supplies and merchandise. For a small town, the potential tax revenue can make a huge difference for our local library, services, and infrastructure. We look forward to an economic partnership benefiting the town, community, and our Loomis businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. On either platform.
So, Madam Mayor, at this point, unless there's any further public comment, I would suggest that we enter into a short break so staff can review the comments that have been submitted and then come back for discussion with council.
Okay. 10 minutes?
Hopefully 10 minutes.
10?
Nope, hopefully 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a brief break so that staff can address the questions that public have given us. So we will reconvene in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
And I would also ask council, if appropriate, that you would close the public comment period for tonight's council meeting.
Okay, so I would like to go ahead and close the public comment for tonight. So there will be no more public comment after now. Do you have more? Yes, you'll get the answers. You know, yeah, I understand. All right, so we're going to take a break and
Test.
Okay, everybody, we're going to be getting back started again, so please take your seats. If everybody could please take their seats, we're going to be getting started again. All right, I understand that we are going to get some answers from staff first.
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll actually turn it over to our EIR consultant, Matthew Gerken, first to respond to some of the EIR specific issues.
Thank you, Sean.
Just got to talk loud.
Pull it towards you.
Oh,
here we go. Pull thing towards you. There you go.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for taking a moment to hear some additional information. This is what I look like. Hello, I'm Matthew. I manage the EIR process, as Sean mentioned. This afternoon and this evening, we've received additional comments, those that you heard verbally, those that came in written form. And the town staff and its group of experts have been reviewing those comments. Some of those, most of them relate to comments that were made on the draft EIR already, and you have lots and lots of written pages of material describing the responses to those comments. Other comments that came in address a disagreement in methodology, analysis methodology, but not necessarily that the methods we used are wrong, just a disagreement. Most of the comments, as you probably noticed, have to do with traffic congestion, which, at least for the purposes of the EIR, under CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, is not an impact anymore. It's not that it's not important, there's a ton of detailed study on traffic congestion in the EIR for informational purposes, but just for your information, it's not something that the CEQA cares about per se any longer. And then overall, looking at the written comments coming in today, this afternoon, this evening, and verbal comments you heard tonight, town staff and expert consultants believe that there's no new comment that relates to a new or substantially increased severity of an impact compared to that which is already in the draft and final EIR you have. There's no new comment related to a feasible alternative that's substantially different than the alternatives we've already considered that wouldn't be adopted. Sabrina will wrap up this discussion and explain why that's important. And then I just wanted to take a minute. I'm sorry, was there a question?
No,
okay.
Go ahead.
It's hard to tell, hard to read facial expressions in body. I wanted to take just a moment to address some of the specific comments that came up this evening. Hopefully it's helpful, edifying to everybody involved. There was a comment about diesel truck movements near the apartments. For this project, for this environmental document, not for most, but for this one, understanding that would be a topic of interest, we prepared what's called a health risk assessment, which is directed by, the methods are directed by something called the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. Their only job is to come up with methodology to ensure that this kind of analysis, looking at air quality related health effects, provides conservative results that are protective of human health and environmental health. So we used those methods, prepared an HRI health risk assessment, including looking at the diesel truck traffic, showing that there would not be a significant effect as it relates to human health. And then on top of that, when you move some of the truck traffic during the night away from that entrance, it further reduces that kind of impact. So I just wanted to provide that in response to something that came up tonight. Also, there was a comment about what about folks that sleep during the day and work at night relative to the truck traffic. The maximum instantaneous truck noise level, considering the distance from where the trucks would be from the apartment, is going to be about 70 to 78, around 75 max. The existing short-term measurements that we took in that same location show that the existing max level can be higher than that today, actually. And then if you look at the trucks distance to the apartment building, the attenuation from the apartment building itself, and the attenuation from the sound wall, you add that all up together and you come up with a noise level during the day when the trucks are using that entrance of around 45 decibels. And that's a common interior noise level standard that's used to avoid sleep disruption at night, but it also, that standard obviously works to avoid sleep disruption during the day. And if you, like me, are a super nerd about noise, you can refer to the draft EIR's noise section, which has a discussion about studies that have occurred over time looking at what percentage of people wake up with different noise levels, 50 decibels, 60 decibels, etc. There's information in there showing that about 1% of people might wake up because of a 50 decibel noise, something like that. And if you do the math, we're looking at around 45-ish. So that's going to be protective of daytime sleepers as well as nighttime sleepers. Let's see. And then finally, there was a question related to the use of Brace Road to the east and the condition of a bridge that's out in that direction. Representative Costco is going to provide some more detail on truck movements associated with that, but I just wanted to note that the site plan is actually designed not to allow that kind of movement to the right for the big trucks that would be serving the site. So it's impractical to think that trucks would be moving in that direction, and also they're centrally controlled by Costco, so that would further prevent that kind of movement from happening. And maybe we can take additional questions at the end and pass this baton to Mario, our traffic expert, who's going to talk about a couple of additional items that came up this evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Matthew. So as Matthew said, I'm going to go over some of the traffic comments that we received. So there was some concerns expressed about overall traffic and congestion on Sierra College Boulevard after the Costco is constructed. And so I would like to note that the Costco project will be providing multiple mitigation measures along Sierra College Boulevard, including widening northbound Sierra College Boulevard to 3 lanes. In addition to that improvement, the town will be implementing a capital improvement project to widen Sierra College Boulevard to 6 lanes between Brace Road and Taylor Road before completion of the Loomis Costco project. This improvement would also include improvements to both the Brace Road and Taylor Road intersections with Sierra College Boulevard, and would also extend the 2-lane section of northbound Sierra College Boulevard north of Taylor Road. There were some concerns and comments expressed about the overall traffic and the potential for U-turns to occur on Brace Road. I want to reiterate that the majority of project traffic is anticipated to access the Costco site via Sierra College Boulevard. Based on data contained in the traffic study for the project, only about 400 vehicles per day are anticipated to use the Brace Road project driveway, which is a relatively low number. In general, we do not anticipate that U-turn movements will occur commonly on Brace Road, as this path to get to Sierra College Boulevard would require a significant amount of inconvenient and out-of-direction vehicle travel. In addition, even if you did make this U-turn and then come back out onto Sierra College Boulevard at the Brace Road intersection heading westbound, you would still likely have to travel through the Brace Road signal, and if you're traveling south, you would still have to travel through the project driveway signal on Sierra College Boulevard, which would further slow this route down. I'd also like to note that the Brace Road project driveway is located in the far northwest corner of the site, which is a good distance away from the main building entrance, and is primarily anticipated to be used by trucks and Costco employees, as it is relatively close to the Costco employee parking lot. And I'd also like to finally note on this subject that Costco is a member-based store, which means that there's going to be a lot of return trips to the site. And generally, we find that members learn the most direct and best ways in and out of the store over time, and so are unlikely to get confused when leaving the site. There were some concerns expressed that the site distance triangles prepared on Brace Road did not consider the presence of parked cars. I will say that parking as part of the project, parking will be restricted on Brace Road west of the proposed right-in, right-out project driveway. And therefore, there will be no parked cars west of the driveway to block the sight distance of vehicles leaving the driveway. There will still remain to be parking in front of the Sierra Meadows apartments. However, this is an existing condition, and because the Brace Road driveway is right in, right out, these cars would not affect the operations or the sight distances at the Costco driveway on Brace Road. There was also concerns expressed that the sight distance triangles on Brace Road driveway would be obstructed by the proposed screening wall and landscaping with the project. However, the current Costco project site plan has not been fully finalized. There's still some small details that need to be worked out. And as those are developed, the town will require and ensure that any retaining walls, any sound walls and landscaping will not obstruct drivers' views at the driveways nearby. There was additional concerns raised about how the right-in, right-out restriction at the Brace Road project driveway would be enforced. And so a raised median will be constructed on Brace Road, which will physically restrict the possibility of making a left turn out of the Brace Road driveway on the Brace Road project driveway. And I just want to reiterate that while this will restrict movements at the project driveway, it will not affect or restrict any operations at the apartments driveway or the Homewood Lumber driveway. There was also a concern about inadequate driveway spacing distance on Brace Road. The proposed spacing of the project driveway and adjacent driveways on Brace Road has been fully analyzed, and it was determined that it meets town municipal code standards, and it also meets adequate site distances determined by the town engineers, consistent with the town land development manual standards for infill development. And so that wraps up all the traffic comments I'm responding to. So next, I will hand it over to Mike DeBroda with Costco.
Okay, let me start with the truck situation that was discussed. Costco, people are starting to lean, so I'm going to do this. Costco doesn't have wildcat drivers. Costco controls their drivers. All of the deliveries that come from the big tractor trailers come from a depot, which is in Tracy. And those drivers are given a certain date and time that they have to show up. So they're totally told when to show up and how to enter and exit the property at all times. So they're basically in violation of their job if they don't follow the rules. So that's what we're saying with that. As far as a driver going out on brace and making that right-hand turn, it's physically impossible to do that movement when your receiving is facing the other direction. The driver will drop his trailer and go straight out towards Sierra College, make a left, and go back to the freeway. So it's not even a probability that that could be done by a truck driver. Now, a car that goes around the back and makes the wrong turn, that's a different situation. That could happen. As far as the number of members in Loomis, it's approximately 1/3 of the population. And understand that the population is husband and wife, kids, things like that. So I can give you that type of information. We really can't get real specific because of the certain privacy laws in the state of California. And these are membership, and we have data and things like that, so we don't give more than what I'm telling you today. As far as building adjacent to residential, some that you might be familiar with is in Clovis, in Elk Grove, and Citrus Heights, which has 2 entrances and a Walmart on the same shopping center. I could name others. Not every one of them is in a residential area, but it does happen. And I believe those were my 3 remaining questions, unless the council has questions of me.
I have a question for you.
All right.
So when it comes to having neighbor relations, what does a neighbor do? Who do they contact? What is your modus operandi of that?
I tell people when I go to the homeowners meetings, make that warehouse manager your best friend. He has total control. You can go and knock on his door. A lot of times he will even give out his cell phone number and say, call me if there's an issue, because we are agreeing to do certain things and we want to make sure. And if you find weird things like a cart in your neighborhood, call us. We'll go get the cart. That's expensive. We want that cart back. If they find a truck that's meandering around, let us know about it. But I think that would be the main thing. Go directly to the manager. He can do a lot of things positive.
Does anybody else have a question?
Can I add to that really quickly too?
Sure.
When I spoke to Michael Okuma about this, he said that on the residential relations stuff, warehouse manager always gives the cell phone number to the town manager, so I'll have the warehouse manager's cell phone number to call if there's any sort of an issue. And he also said that they typically hold, at least at the beginning when the store first opens, probably quarterly meetings with like a on-site with neighborhoods. And then those, when the store is actually operating and a couple of years go by, they switch them to either biannual, so twice a year, or annual. So that's the time for folks who live in the neighborhoods, if anybody's being impacted, to come and talk to the warehouse manager. And as Mike said, the manager has total control over the way that the Costco is actually operating. So just wanted to add that.
I have another question too. So I've noticed when I go around to Costco's that there's a lot of local stuff that they picked up for sale. And so what would, say we have our local wares here in Loomis, who would we contact to get those local wares in a potential Costco?
Both the manager and then local merchandising managers, which would be out of Livermore, would be the ones. But typically the small farms and things like that, or pastries and things, they'll go directly to the warehouse manager and then figure out a way to produce enough to stock a Costco.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Please.
I've got a couple questions. All right, Mike, thanks. So we've heard a few questions tonight I want to get some clarity on. First of all, thanks for responding to the question about residential, commercial. Just to clarify, so while the property is adjacent to residential properties, it's also adjacent to commercial properties. All right, so it's not as clear as someone might say when you say, well, the property is in a residential neighborhood. That's not a true statement to the degree where I think people are wanting it to be. It's also within a striking distance of a major federal highway. So you've got commercial across the street. All of those properties across the street are zoned commercial. You've got the gas station next door, the Shell and the McDonald's. All of that's residential. So I think it's probably more accurate to say it's on the edge of, it's adjacent to residential and it's adjacent to commercial. And it mostly is a commercial property. And it has been zoned commercial for years. It has always been meant to be, I mean, all of that is a commercial corridor. And while there is a slice of the project that is zoned residential and you're requesting a rezone on it, that is a commercial corridor. So Sierra College was built for that purpose. It wasn't built for people, it is built for many reasons, not just for people to get back and forth from their homes. It was meant to be a commercial drive. We've heard a lot of statements. First of all, I thank everyone for writing your comments, all right? That's been a very long process. We have made staff available to respond to those comments. I've read personally every single one of these comments. There's hundreds in the EIR. And I've also read every single response to those comments. So, you know, I'm sensitive to a lot of those comments. There's a lot of people who live right next to it. And if this was coming into my backyard or adjacent to my backyard, I'd have something to say about it. So I'm sensitive to that. I really am. And we can't lose sight of that. It's a tremendous impact on a lot of people, especially the apartment dwellers and the people who live next door in the Heritage, in the Hunters Oak neighborhood. But we've also heard that from one party that the project hasn't changed at all. The site plan hasn't changed at all over the last 3 years. Then from another party we heard that it keeps changing. So I'm not sure what's happening. I know what keeps happening. It does change, and when projects are presented at first, Costco I think did a pretty good job, and they sat down with a lot of the people who lived close by and said, okay, look, this is coming. We want to be a neighbor here in Loomis. We're looking at a site across the street in Rockland. And I think, you know, you struck a pretty good tone and a good dialogue early on with people. If you listen to social media, I think that overwhelmingly Costco is favorable among a lot of people. I think the people who are not happy are people who live close by, and you can't blame those people. So I'm getting to a question, all right? So my question is this, Mike. So the site plan has changed, and why did that happen? You came to Loomis 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and you had an idea, and you sat down with neighbors. What happened after that? There was at one point Granite Drive was coming in, and at one point there was going to be two access points on Brace Road, and that's changed. And some people have blamed that on, well, you're being disingenuous, or you're not being, transparent, or you're making changes to the project. Why do people change? Why do applicants change designs in a project, Mike?
Well, some of the designs were changed because the neighborhood didn't want certain things. They didn't want two brace access. So we said, okay, let's just go back to the one, but we need an emergency one. So that was a change. There's been some modifications where we wanted to make sure that there was enough setbacks from the residential to the east. So we've got a big residential buffer zone there, landscaped with wall, with mature trees and things of that nature, because the neighborhood wanted things like that. If you could get more access, you could probably do more access. Although we made some attempts, couldn't get the accesses that were needed to go through Rockland, at least not to date. Not that we wouldn't give up, and keep trying. There is also a situation where your gas needs to be a certain distance from residential. You know, it's just air quality.
Yeah.
So it kind of forces where the gas goes. So when the gas goes where it is on the southwest part of the property, that ends up leaving the warehouse to the north end of the property.
And at some point, it was a very contentious issue between Rockland and Loomis, that Rockland wanted the Granite Drive access, and we said, or Costco said, well, let's put the Granite Drive access in. And in the latest iteration of this project, it's been taken out. So what's the deal with that? Rockland wanted it, now they don't care about it?
Rockland wanted it to begin with. I negotiated with Mr. Petrovich, who owns the property to the south. We have an easement agreement that's still valid, but as I think in the presentation, it requires Rockland's approval, and Rockland so far has not given that approval. I don't think that we have, as far as Costco is concerned, has pushed Rockland to make a decision. But if there was a way that Rockland would change their mind, I think that there would be a way that I'm sure that Mr. Petrovich would agree to continue his agreement with the easement, and that would leave more access points for Costco and Mr. Petrovich. So it would benefit the Rockland development also at a future date.
Mario, are you on the phone? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm on.
Is that, would the Granite Drive access, I mean, how would that change or help or hurt circulation?
So we did analyze an alternative in the traffic study and in the draft EIR that included a Granite Drive access. And so you can look up exact impacts and things there. But generally, it provides one more access point in and out of the site. It, takes some of the traffic and some of the congestion off of the main Sierra College Boulevard project driveway that's proposed. And we generally found the operations with a Granite Drive access to be acceptable and to work well. So, I think that alternative has been fully analyzed and is out there. And as far as I know, the town of Loomis would like to move forward that pending approval of Rockland.
The attorney in the room from Rockland doesn't have the authority to cut that deal right now. However, I'd ask him to take that back to Rockland. I think, they've played games with us over the last few years, and it's been very frustrating because we have spent hours and hours, hundreds of hours on this project, working with Rockland, attempting to work with Rockland. I wrote a letter to the council over there last year, and as per the request, they had over 20 requests of mitigation measures that we would implement into this project. We acquiesced. The project put it on hold for over a year. We gave them over 20 requests, and they have been very cold to work with. In fact, I've heard their statements publicly. Their staff, I got to tell you, I think they're getting really lousy advice and counsel from their staff. They have made some really difficult and challenging public comments about Loomis. They've gone as far as saying Loomis has shown, quote, very little interest, if zero interest, working with Rockland. Now, I know because I've worked on this for a couple years with staff, and that's just a false statement. And it's not just a single time that they've said that. They've made that comment in public multiple times. I think there's something very, very deeply cynical going on and worrisome, all right? We've got a lot of very powerful forces working against Loomis on this, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who want to see us screw this up. And if council votes on this tonight and pushes it forward, there's still other barriers that exist to get through this. I'm telling you, Lincoln wants this Costco, Rockland wants a Costco, and there's nothing to stop them from pursuing the dollar. I heard the apartment manager, the apartment owner across the street from the Costco say, well, it just appears that Loomis is looking out for a tax revenue dollar. I'm paraphrasing. Well, that's right. We are looking out for tax revenue. And so is Rockland, and so is Lincoln, and so are you, sir. And if we weren't motivated by a dollar, then I think you should question us. But I think there's a lot of forces that want to see Loomis screw this up. And I'm talking straight to the people who live in Loomis and who are voters. This is a golden opportunity for Loomis to be self-sufficient. And we voted in 1984 to be a town of our own. And when we put our general plan together, we said we were going to develop our commercial corridors so that we could become self-sufficient. And to this date, that hasn't happened. Turtle Island hasn't come to fruition. The property previously known as the Village, has not happened. And Loomis, today, we're short $700,000 on our annual budget. And we've also heard that Homewood has moved their lumber over to Rockland. Now, with our maybe one or two highest tax revenue generators leaving the town, that puts Loomis in a very difficult position. And I think that you can't have this conversation in a vacuum without talking about that challenge that Loomis faces. And while Costco won't be the cure-all, it won't solve all of our problems, it sure will take a dent into a lot of the issues that we face. And so I'm sensitive to traffic. I'm sensitive to the people who live close by. But when you look at it from a bottom line standpoint, Loomis has to proceed with this project and move it forward. Because every city, I'm telling you, I go and talk to a lot of my counterparts. I'm going over here, Madam Mayor, but I'm gonna make a couple more points, then I'll yield. But I talk to a lot of my counterparts in other cities and other counties, and they often come to me and say, how did you guys attract Costco to Loomis? I'm telling you, most every city and every county around wants a Costco because of the quality of jobs they bring, the amount of tax revenue they bring, but not only that, they are incredible members of a community. And someone said tonight, well, Auburn didn't want them. Well, that's not true. Auburn did want them. It was the city of Auburn who wasn't going to get the tax revenue out of it. It was in the county jurisdiction, and they couldn't figure out how to make it work with each other. It's not that they didn't want it, it's that the city wasn't getting a whole lot of tax revenue out of it. And that's exactly what could happen if we lose this opportunity. They'll move it across the street. There's a great property across the street. Or if they don't, they'll go up the hill to Lincoln. And all of our, we have, what, a third of our population, our members, we send our tax revenue up to Lincoln. I'm telling you, I had a public official, Madam Mayor, from Lincoln tell me a year ago, he said they are courting Costco, they're trying to get meetings arranged with Costco so that they can fit them into this perfect spot in Lincoln, and he told me straight up, I hope you guys screw it up. And I mean, I hope that people who have the voting power, if this ever goes beyond council's decision tonight, realize that this is a golden opportunity for Loomis to become self-sufficient, much more than we are. And I'm sure I'll have some other comments, but that's where I'm at right now. And having said that, I'll hand it over to you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we have more questions that came from public comment. I'd like to get those addressed. And specifically, a gentleman asked the sequence of events and the ongoing issues with Rockland. Who was going to handle that one?
The sequence of events with Rockland?
There was a gentleman that came for public comment that wanted to know what were the issues and...
Yeah. So Tim touched on this a little bit, but in your packet under attachment 6, there's a list of all the agency coordination efforts. It's a 2-page list, and if you go through that, we've had at least 14 different meetings with Rockland trying to figure out how to address Rockland's concerns. The last response that we've had was in September. That was the last meeting. That was a meeting between the city manager of Rockland and I. We had another meeting that was scheduled for December that got canceled, and I haven't heard anything as far as a meeting since then. We sent over to them in September, actually a draft in August, and then in September another draft, a draft MOU that spelled out a bunch of different things that the town was willing to discuss and enter into with Rockland, including Granite Drive and including some other stuff. We submitted that, and we received no comments from that. And so there are things that I can control and that the town can control in terms of mitigation measures on the EIR, but there's other things that I can't control because I can't make somebody enter into an MOU, basically an agreement. I can't force somebody to do that. And so, you know, frankly, I don't understand the lack of response from this thing coming out in September. I'll tell you, from the first time that I started working here in 2017, I started July of 2017. I met with the city manager of Rockland at that point. The city manager, probably it was within a month of me starting to work here. We had breakfast together at Bonita Ray's. Great food, Bonita Ray's. So Ricky told me, you really need to figure out how to get a cross-access agreement with Costco and the Petrovich parcel, because that property is going to be coming up. He's going to be proposing another project there. And you and I know, this is Ricky speaking, you and I know that having a cross-access agreement with Costco and Petrovich's property and having that access connect to Granite Drive is going to be critical for the whole corridor to operate properly. I said, I agree with that 100%. And then Ricky and I talked about how eventually when Petrovich builds out his parcel, having Costco with the cross-access agreement is basically going to make the Petrovich parcel look like they've got an anchor tenant in Costco without having an anchor tenant in Costco, because they're connected somehow. It doesn't need to be like a parking lot connection, but there needs to be a way to get back and forth. Good planning says that you should do that. The problem with that is I don't control, Loomis doesn't control, what happens with Rockland. Granite Drive is in Rockland. So I went out and called in a favor from Petrovich to get Petrovich to talk to Costco and get that cross-access agreement done. Mike DeBroda just said that they got that figured out. That was entered into back in like 2018, maybe 2019. I don't remember the exact timing, but it's been in place for quite a while. We put in the MOU, we met with Rockland. Our draft EIR showed the connection occurring through Petrovich's property in sort of a rough estimated place. This is the first draft EIR. And then met with Rockland, and Rockland said, well, we don't like the way that you have Granite Drive developed there in the EIR. And I said, okay, well, how do you want it to be developed? And then it was like, well, we don't know how we want it. This is literally, we don't know how we want it to be developed because we don't know what the Petrovich property is going to develop as. And so I said, okay. So I know that you have a project that's been submitted to you by Petrovich because he told me that. And I know that there was an application submitted, and then the response back was, well, we need to see the traffic study to see what that access is going to be for Granite Drive. We don't know what Granite Drive, the layout of Granite Drive is going to be. Granite Drive is only so wide. There's a Chevron on one side, there's a 7-Eleven on the other side, and if you go across Sierra College to Granite Drive, there's a center median strip down the middle. That's what we were proposing. I said, if you don't want the center median strip, tell me what you want. We don't know what we want because we don't know what the project is going to be. And that was the last that we really heard about that. When we resubmitted, when we resent out the draft EIR, meeting with Rockland, Rockland said, well, you know, we looked at the Granite Drive access and we don't think that that's really necessary at this point. This is literally like 2 years after they told me that they wanted it, and then they pulled it back. The same thing happened with the second access on Brace. That was requested by Rockland. We made that happen. And then they said, well, we decided we don't want that after all. So I don't know what to the gentleman's question about why the Granite Drive access isn't happening. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. But I will say that the way that the conditions of approval are written, it says that Costco, if the property owner next to them, which is Petrovich, agrees to have that cross-access agreement happen, which they have because they have an agreement, and if Rockland allows the connection of that access to Granite Drive, then Costco has to put that in. And so it's set up in a way that Costco has to do it if Rockland says, we want you to do it. Then that's all that we can do as the town of Loomis. There's nothing else that we can do.
So you can see that in terms of the residences and what they're seeing, you know, the project looks like this, and then the project looks like this. It's changing, just like Councilmember Underko said. And I know that Rockland has asked, and then, you know, said they didn't want to do it on those major things that, you know, entrances, especially the Brace Road one. So it's very, very frustrating for sure.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just to make a point on that, it is very frustrating, but when I talk to my counterparts in Rockland about this, they all say the same thing, that we want Loomis to be successful, we want to be great neighbors, we want Loomis to have a Costco, but that's exactly the opposite of what their staff is doing. And it is very frustrating, but you know what's most frustrating is to be lectured by Rockland about traffic. I mean, it's the ultimate irony here. 95% of the traffic in Rockland is from Rockland, and it's encroaching upon Loomis, and it has been encroaching upon Loomis for years into our schools. And we want those kids and those families to come to our schools and to our town, but don't sit around and lecture us about your traffic issues when we're bringing a Costco in. Costco is... I have to say, I appreciate the contrast between the Roseville and Loomis Costco slide, because Costco gets a bad rap. Everybody says all that traffic is Costco. There's millions of square feet of commercial space in Roseville. And our consultants are telling us this design works. And that's what we have to rely on. Thank you again.
Okay, is there any other questions that we need to answer that we missed? Does anybody have any questions more on the council?
I would like if council has no further questions, I would like our CEQA attorney to discuss some of the finer points of CEQA law.
I think some of the council members still have some things they want to say. Will we have a chance to comment again?
It's your meeting.
Okay. Let's go with the... You ready then?
Sure. I'll just note for the benefit of the court reporter that anytime any of the council members speak, unless you're speaking into the microphone, she can't capture what you're saying. So just wanted to give you that reminder. Thank you. I'm Sabrina Teller with the law firm of Remy Moose Manley, and I am the town's outside CEQA counsel for the purposes of this project. And I've worked on it through the entire recirculated draft DIR process to now. So I wanted to just give you, and I won't make this a CEQA 101 class because it's late, but I just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview and summary of the CEQA process as it pertains to where you are right now and the decision that you're tasked with this week and next. So CEQA requires a thorough analysis of all potentially significant environmental impacts, consideration of feasible mitigation and alternatives, and good faith efforts to engage the public and to respond to all substantive public comments supported throughout that process and in every written document by substantial evidence. The final EIR before you tonight meets that standard. CEQA does not require perfection. It doesn't require that you delay certification until every single commenter is 100% satisfied and supports the project. And it does not require that all experts reach agreement on technical issues, especially highly technical issues like traffic analysis and the methodology underlying that analysis. So the staff and the town's consultants have very carefully reviewed the several comment letters submitted after the publication of the final EIR through the Planning Commission and up to tonight, and they have concluded, we have all concluded, that they concern issues already addressed in the EIR at length, or they consist of ongoing disputes over methodology which have been thoroughly addressed in the responses to comments in the final EIR and the further responses to comments that are in your staff packet tonight. And on such questions, on ongoing disputes like that over the methodology, the town is empowered to determine the credibility of its own experts and consultants and staff, as long as they're supported by substantial evidence. And the town's record here contains ample evidence for the council to make that determination. And then lastly, I want to note that there are repeated demands in the late filed letters in front of you for additional analysis of different alternatives or variations on the alternatives that are already studied in the EIR. So I want to reiterate Matthew's explanation a little bit earlier that an EIR need only consider a reasonable range of alternatives that address one or more of the project's significant impacts. And your EIR, again, meets that standard. The town is not required to evaluate every possible configuration or project variation, particularly where, as here, the proposed mitigation is technically feasible and, if implemented, would mitigate the traffic and noise impacts to a less than significant level. The only reason that they are determined to be significant and unavoidable is, as Sean and others have explained at length, implementing some of them requires the permission of another agency. So with that, if you have any questions about the secret process, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Nope. Nope.
So just to be clear, Madam Mayor, so the traffic analysis has been peer reviewed, right? Tell me about those two firms. So Costco did traffic analysis, and then there was a peer review done by an outside consultant.
So Costco retained Kittleson Associates?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Okay. Costco retained the consulting firm of Kittleson Associates, which is a well-renowned firm. And the town used their town engineer, Mario, who's with Wood Rogers, also well-respected, along with others on the town staff or consultants reviewed the documentation to make sure that the assumptions were consistent and correct. So there was a significant amount of peer review that has occurred in this document.
In addition to that, Caltrans has weighed in?
Caltrans, we met with them. They have weighed in and they concur with our analysis. The Placer County Air Pollution Control District weighed in. We work closely with them to meet their requirements, and they concur with our analysis for VMT. And also Placer County Resources Agency work closely with them so that they also concur with our analysis. So basically, we have two state agencies and a county agency agreeing with the analysis that we had prepared.
Okay. Thank you.
And to piggyback on that, I wanted to reiterate that Rockland asked us to do an additional study using their methodology, correct?
That is correct.
And
They requested we do a sim traffic analysis, which we did, and we did provide them our input back in September of 2019 so that they could review it, and we asked them if they had any comments, questions, or concerns to contact us. We'd meet again to discuss it.
did they contact you?
No.
Okay. Council, do you have any other questions? Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So now what is before us? We need to do a motion for, let's see.
Madam Mayor, what's before you for action is simply to conclude the public hearing for tonight.
Right.
Let the public know that the public hearing is continued until August 11th, at which time the council will consider all of the project approvals. Tonight's only quote-unquote action is the first reading of the ordinance, and that's just a technical term. Ordinances have to have two times they appear before the council. This is that first time. The second time has to be at least 5 days later. That would be next week. So your motion is to, I think we have a motion to hold the first reading or approve the first reading, and the rest of the actions will take place on August 11th.
Okay, so we'll have a motion to introduce ordinance number 20, which is approving a zoning code amendment for the first reading, correct?
Correct.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please? The Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Now, we need a motion to continue the public hearing for, is that August 11th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. I don't think they could hear. What's that? You want to do that again, Jeff?
Let's do that over again, please.
I was first. Aye.
Aye.
Turn it up.
Still can't hear.
Still can't hear you.
You got to pull your face shield off.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Ondurko?
Aye.
Mayor Clark-Kretz?
Aye. All right, so we're going to be continuing the public hearing on August 11th, a week from today. And I'm going to adjourn our meeting at exactly, on my clock, it says 10 o'clock. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks for getting the mics fixed, too. Much better than planning commission. Appreciate it, guys.